My name is Maxine, and at 28, I never imagined my high school heartbreak would lead to this moment. The night my sister Amanda stole my boyfriend at prom shattered me, but life has a funny way of coming full circle. Last week I returned to my hometown, stepping off a private jet, diamonds on my finger, with my billionaire husband Jack by my side. The look on Amanda's face when she saw us was worth every tear I shed 10 years ago. Before I dive into this wild ride from heartbreak to happiness, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had someone steal your thunder only to regret it later. Growing up in Westfield, Connecticut was picture perfect from the outside. Our family lived in a colonial-style house with a sprawling backyard, 2 cars in the driveway, and annual vacations to Florida. But inside those pristine walls, I was constantly living in the shadow of my older sister Amanda. Amanda was everything I was not. 2 years my senior, she had this effortless beauty that turned heads without trying. Golden blonde hair that fell in perfect waves, bright blue eyes, and the kind of athletic build that looked good in everything. Meanwhile, I had unruly brown hair, was 5 inches shorter, and spent most of my teenage years with braces and glasses. The rivalry between us started early. When I was 6 and Amanda 8, I received a beautiful porcelain doll for my birthday from our grandmother. It had hand-painted features and a satin dress that I absolutely adored. Within 3 days, Amanda had convinced our parents that I was too young for such a delicate toy, and somehow it ended up on her bedroom shelf instead. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. Anytime I showed interest in an activity, Amanda would suddenly develop a passion for it too. When I joined the school choir in 5th grade, Amanda, who had never shown any interest in singing before, auditioned for a solo the following week. Not only did she get the solo, but the choir director suggested I move to the back row because my voice was not strong enough. Our parents, though loving, inadvertently reinforced this dynamic. My dad, a successful investment banker, would beam with pride at Amanda's athletic trophies. My mom, who ran her own small interior design business, would showcase Amanda's academic achievements to her clients. My report cards, while also filled with "as," would receive a quick pat on the back and a distracted, "that is nice, honey." By the time we reached high school, our roles were firmly established. Amanda was the golden child captain of the volleyball team, student council president, and perpetually surrounded by a crowd of admirers. I was just Amanda's little sister, with my small group of equally unremarkable friends. It was in sophomore year that I discovered my passion for art and design. I had taken an elective art class simply to fill a requirement, but something clicked when I first held a charcoal pencil. The way lines could create depth, how colors could evoke emotions, it was like finding a language that finally made sense to me. For once, Amanda could not touch this part of my life. She had tried once enrolling in the same art class the following semester, but quickly dropped it when it became apparent she lacked the natural talent and patience the subject required. Mrs. Lawson, our art teacher, became my mentor. She stayed after school to teach me advanced techniques and encouraged me to build a portfolio. Under her guidance, my work began to receive recognition. I won a regional art competition junior year, and my mixed media piece was displayed in the local gallery. That night, instead of congratulating me, Amanda announced her acceptance to Stanford with a full athletic scholarship at the dinner table. My achievement was once again overshadowed. My dream became to attend Parsons School of Design in New York City. It represented everything I wanted. Escape from Amanda's shadow recognition for my own talents and entry into a world where creativity was valued above conventional beauty or popularity. I spent countless hours perfecting my portfolio, researching scholarship opportunities, and imagining a life where I was known as just Maxine, not Amanda's little sister. Senior year arrived, and for the first time I felt hopeful. Amanda had graduated and moved across the country to California. The halls of Westfield High seemed brighter without her presence. I could finally breathe, finally step into the light, and see who I might become without the constant comparison. Little did I know that Amanda's absence was only setting the stage for an even greater betrayal. With new confidence, I changed my appearance slightly. I ditched the glasses for contacts, learned to tame my curly hair, and developed my own style that leaned into vintage and artistic elements, rather than trying to copy the preppy look that Amanda had perfected. People began to notice me in a different way, not as a replacement for my sister, but as someone entirely new and interesting. It was in this atmosphere of renewal and possibility that I entered my final year of high school, unaware that the freedom I felt was merely the calm before the storm. Amanda might have been physically absent, but her influence and the patterns we had established would return with devastating consequences when I least expected it. Chemistry class junior year changed everything. Mr. Barnett announced lab partners for the semester, and to my complete shock, he paired me with Tyler Matthews. Tyler was Westfield High royalty quarterback of the football team Homecoming King, and possessor of the kind of smile that made girls fumble their words mid-sentence. He had never spoken more than 10 words to me before. Our first lab together was awkward. I kept knocking things over, nervous about making a fool of myself. But Tyler was surprisingly patient, even impressed when I correctly identified all the chemical reactions before he could. At the end of class, instead of rushing off to his popular friends, he lingered. "You are really smart, Maxine," he said, slinging his backpack over one shoulder. "Want to study together sometime? I could use the help if I want to keep my GPA up for college scouts." That study session turned into weekly meetings at the local coffee shop. I learned that behind the perfect athletic exterior was a guy who genuinely wanted to do well in school, who had a surprisingly sharp sense of humor, and who seemed interested in my thoughts and opinions. By the end of the semester, our study sessions had nothing to do with chemistry anymore. The day Tyler officially asked me to be his girlfriend remains crystallized in my memory. It was a crisp October afternoon, leaves crunching under our feet as we walked through the park after school. He seemed unusually nervous, stopping by the pond and turning to face me. "Max," he said, using the nickname only my closest friends used. "I really like spending time with you. You are different from anyone I have ever met. Would you, want to be my girlfriend? Officially?" I stood there in shock, wondering if this was some elaborate prank. But his eyes were sincere, hopeful even. When I finally managed to say yes, his face lit up with a genuine smile that made my heart skip. For the first time I felt chosen. Not as a consolation prize, not as Amanda's sister, but as Maxine, exactly as I was. News of our relationship spread quickly. I suddenly found myself invited to parties I would have been invisible at before. Girls who had never acknowledged my existence now wanted to be my friend. It was strange and disorienting, but Tyler seemed oblivious to the social shift. To him, it was natural that people would want to know me. It was at one of these parties that I first really noticed Jack Sullivan, Tyler's best friend since elementary school. While Tyler was all golden California looks and easy charisma, Jack was darker, quieter, with an intensity that was slightly intimidating. He came from serious money. Old money that nobody talked about directly, but everyone knew about. His family owned a tech company that had started in the early days of Silicon Valley. Jack was brilliant. He had already been accepted early to MIT and spent his spare time building computers and writing code. He did not fit the typical jock friend mold, but he and Tyler had a brotherhood that transcended high school social categories. The first time Jack and I had a real conversation was at Tyler's house during a small get-together. I had wandered into the den, where Tyler's parents had an impressive bookshelf. Jack found me examining their collection. "The Fitzgerald is a first edition," he said, making me jump. "Sorry, did not mean to startle you." "No worries," I replied carefully, returning The Great Gatsby to its place. "I was just surprised to find this here. Tyler does not strike me as much of a reader." Jack smiled, a rare expression that transformed his serious face. "He is not. That belongs to his dad. But you are right, a reader." That conversation flowed easily from books to art to my designs. Jack asked thoughtful questions about my portfolio and seemed genuinely impressed by my acceptance to Parsons. Unlike most people who nodded politely when I talked about art, Jack engaged with my ideas, challenged my thinking, and recommended exhibitions I should see in New York. "You are going to make waves, Maxine," he said with a certainty that made me believe it too. "You have something original to say." As my relationship with Tyler progressed, Amanda began making surprise visits home from Stanford. The first time could have been coincidence, a long weekend when she claimed to be homesick. By the third unexpected visit, coinciding perfectly with Tyler's birthday party, the pattern was unmistakable. Amanda was suddenly interested in everything about my life, especially Tyler. She would casually touch his arm when laughing at his jokes. She would reference inside stories from their childhood, emphasizing how long they had known each other, making me feel like the outsider. "Oh, Tyler, remember when we were in 8th grade and you pushed me into the pool at Sarah's birthday?" she would say, flipping her hair and smiling in that dazzling way that made everyone pay attention. Tyler seemed flattered by the attention, but reassured me it meant nothing. "She is just being friendly, Max. You know how Amanda is with everyone." But I did know how Amanda was, especially when she wanted something that was mine. One evening after Amanda had monopolized Tyler at a small gathering, Jack pulled me aside. His dark eyes were serious, concerned. "Be careful, Maxine," he warned quietly. "I have known Tyler a long time. He is a good guy, but he can be impressionable. And your sister seems to be making quite an impression." I dismissed his warning, partly from loyalty to Tyler, and partly because I could not bear the thought of history repeating itself. "Tyler would never do that to me," I insisted. "And Amanda is just being Amanda. She will be back in California soon." Jack did not press the issue, but his eyes held something like resignation, as if he had seen this movie before and knew the ending would not be happy. As prom approached, Amanda announced she would be staying home for an extended break due to a conveniently timed renovation of her dorm building. Every day she found some reason to be around Tyler, to offer her help with prom committee decisions, to reminisce about shared childhood memories I was not part of. I tried to ignore the knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. Tyler was mine. He had chosen me. This time Amanda would not win. How naive I was. Prom preparations became my focus, a welcome distraction from Amanda's increasing presence in our lives. I had designed my own dress, a midnight blue creation with vintage-inspired beading that I had worked on for months in my art elective. Mrs. Lawson had helped me translate my design into reality, and the result was something uniquely mine, something Amanda could not copy or outdo. Tyler had seemed genuinely impressed when I showed him the design. "Wow, Max, that is going to be the most beautiful dress at prom. You are incredible," you know, that his words had calmed my growing insecurities, at least temporarily. The days leading up to prom were filled with excitement. Hair appointments were booked, corsage colors were coordinated, and dinner reservations were made. Tyler and I had planned everything: photos at the Botanical Garden, dinner at Luciano's, and then the dance itself at the Grand Westfield Hotel ballroom. The morning of prom, I awoke with butterflies. This was supposed to be one of those milestone high school moments, and for once I was at the center of it rather than watching from the sidelines. My mom helped me with my hair, curling it into loose waves and pinning small crystal flowers throughout. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," she said, her eyes tearing up slightly. So grown up. Even my dad put down his newspaper when I came downstairs, giving a low whistle of approval. "That is quite a dress, Maxine. Did you really make that yourself?" For a brief moment, I felt what it must be like to be Amanda, to have all eyes appreciatively on me. It was intoxicating. Amanda was suspiciously absent during my preparation, claiming she had errands to run. I was grateful for the space, able to enjoy my moment without her commentary or presence. Tyler arrived at 6, looking devastatingly handsome in his black tux. His eyes widened when he saw me coming down the stairs. "Max, you are..." Wow. He seemed genuinely speechless, and my heart swelled. After the obligatory parent photos in our living room, we left for the Botanical Garden to meet our friends for group pictures. Everything felt magical, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the flowers. Tyler's hand warm in mine, the admiring glances from our classmates. Amanda showed up at the gardens unexpectedly, claiming Mom had asked her to bring the forgotten boutonniere for Tyler. I did not remember any forgotten boutonniere, but before I could question it, she had inserted herself into our photo group, strategically positioning herself near Tyler. "I want to document my little sister's big night," she announced, with a smile that did not reach her eyes. No one questioned her presence. Amanda had always had that effect on people. Despite this hiccup, dinner was wonderful. Tyler was attentive, our friends were in high spirits, and even Amanda's unexpected appearance at the restaurant claiming she was meeting friends at the bar could not dampen my mood. This was my night, and I was determined to enjoy every minute. The ballroom took my breath away. Twinkling lights, flowing fabric, and an ethereal under-the-stars theme transformed the usually stuffy hotel space. Tyler led me immediately to the dance floor, pulling me close as a slow song played. "You really do look beautiful tonight," he whispered in my ear. "The most beautiful girl here." For 2 hours, everything was perfect. We danced, laughed with friends, and posed for the professional photographer. Tyler went to get us punch, and when he did not return after 15 minutes, I started looking for him. I checked near the refreshments, then the photo booth area, growing increasingly concerned. A pit began forming in my stomach, that instinctive sense that something was wrong. On a hunch, I headed toward the quieter hallway that led to the hotel's garden terrace. The sound of familiar laughter stopped me cold. Amanda's laughter followed by a lower murmur that I recognized immediately as Tyler's voice. Moving silently, I approached the partially open terrace door. What I saw shattered my world into 1,000 pieces. Tyler and Amanda were locked in an embrace, his hands tangled in her hair as he kissed her with an intensity I had never experienced from him. Her prom dress, a form-fitting red gown I had never seen before, put my handmade creation to shame. "Tyler." My voice came out as a broken whisper, but it was enough to make them break apart. Tyler's face drained of color. "Max, this is not. I mean..." Amanda, on the other hand, showed no shame. She actually smiled, straightening her dress with deliberate slowness. "Oh, Maxine, I am sorry you had to find out this way." The fakeness of her apology made my blood boil. Find out what way? That my sister is a backstabbing traitor, that my boyfriend is a cheater. Please enlighten me. Tyler stepped forward, his expression pleading. "Max, it just happened. Amanda and we have this connection that I cannot explain. I never meant to hurt you." "A connection?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You have been dating me for 8 months, Tyler." Amanda sighed dramatically. "Sometimes these things cannot be helped, Maxine. Tyler and I have known each other forever. This was probably inevitable." "Inevitable? Since when?" "Since I started dating him. Since you realized someone might actually prefer me over you for once." The words poured out, years of resentment, finally finding voice. People had started gathering in the hallway, drawn by the commotion. I could hear whispers, see the phones discreetly recording what was quickly becoming the scandal of prom night. Tyler at least had the decency to look ashamed. "I should have ended things with you first. That was wrong of me. But Amanda and it is real, Max." "Real?" I echoed hollowly. "As real as every other time she has taken something of mine? Do you even see what is happening? Or are you too blinded by her to notice the pattern?" Amanda's smile turned cold. "Do not be dramatic, Maxine. It is just prom. It is not like you two were getting married. Besides, everyone knows Tyler and I make more sense together." The casual cruelty of her words hit me like a physical blow. I turned to leave, unable to bear another moment of their presence, when I felt a hand on my shoulder. I flinched, thinking it was Tyler, but found Jack instead. His eyes took in the scene, understanding immediately. "You okay?" he asked quietly, his gaze never leaving mine. I shook my head, unable to speak through the lump in my throat. Jack turned to Tyler, his expression hardening. "Seriously, man, this is how you do things." Tyler had the grace to look away. "It is complicated, Jack." "No, it is actually very simple," Jack replied, his voice cold. "It is called being a decent human being. You should try it sometime." He turned back to me. "Come on, Maxine. Let me get you out of here." As we turned to leave, Amanda called out, "Wait, we still need the group photo for Mom." She wanted pictures of all of us together. The audacity was breathtaking. Before I could respond, Jack replied for me. "I think you have got enough material for your scrapbook, Amanda." But somehow, through Amanda's manipulation and the photographer's insistence, I found myself standing woodenly for one last photo. Amanda positioned herself next to Tyler, her arm snaked possessively around his waist. a triumphant smile on her face as she looked directly at the camera. Tyler looked uncomfortable but did not move away from her. I stood at the edge of the frame, Jack's supportive hand on my shoulder, the only thing keeping me from collapsing. That photo would haunt me for years. Amanda's victory grin, Tyler's weak character exposed, and my own devastated expression preserved for posterity. As the flash went off, I made myself a promise this would be the last time Amanda took something from me and smiled about it. The days following prom passed in a blur of tears and isolation. I skipped the last week of classes claiming a sudden flu. My parents sensing something was deeply wrong but not knowing the full story did not push me to attend. Amanda had conveniently returned to Stanford for finals, taking Tyler with her for a campus visit, their new relationship already public on social media. The rumors and gossip spread like wildfire. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from curious classmates, some offering sympathy, others just fishing for details of the scandal. I ignored them all, retreating into the solace of my art. I spent hours in my bedroom sketching furiously, pouring my pain onto paper in dark, chaotic designs that reflected my inner turmoil. Graduation arrived with unwelcome speed. I attended only because my parents insisted, wearing sunglasses to hide my reddened eyes and sitting as far from my former friends as possible. When they called my name to receive my diploma, the applause seemed muted, uncomfortable. I did not stay for the hat toss or the celebrations, slipping away as soon as the ceremony concluded. 1 week after graduation, I received the official acceptance package from Parsons, including a substantial talent scholarship that would cover most of my tuition. It felt like the universe offering me an escape route, a way forward through the darkness. The night before I left for New York, there was a knock on my bedroom door. I opened it to find Jack standing awkwardly in the hallway, hands in his pockets. "Your mom let me in," he explained. "I wanted to see you before you left." I invited him in, suddenly conscious of the boxes and suitcases scattered around my nearly empty room. We sat on the edge of my stripped bed, an uncomfortable silence between us. "I am sorry about everything, Maxine," he finally said. "What they did was inexcusable." I shrugged, trying to appear stronger than I felt. "It is what it is. Amanda always wins. I should have known better." Jack frowned. "That is not true. What happened was not about winning or losing. It was about two people making selfish choices that hurt someone who deserved better." He paused, looking around at my packed art supplies. "Parsons is lucky to have you. You are going to do amazing things there." His confidence in me brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "I am terrified," I admitted. "I have never been outside Connecticut. What if I am not good enough? What if I fail?" Jack reached into his jacket and pulled out a small package. "I got you something. A going-away present." Inside was a beautiful leather-bound sketchbook with my initials embossed on the cover. "Open it," he urged. The first page had a handwritten note. "To Maxine, who will design her own future. The world is waiting for your vision. Jack." "I do not know what to say," I whispered, genuinely touched. "You do not need to say anything. Just promise you will fill it with amazing designs." He stood to leave, then hesitated. "Can I write to you? Or email? I am heading to MIT in the fall, so I will be relatively close by." I nodded, surprised and somewhat comforted by his request. I would like that. But life had other plans. The whirlwind of New York City swept me up immediately. My tiny shared apartment in Brooklyn took most of my non-school hours to afford, with 3 part-time jobs, barely covering rent and art supplies. The intensity of the Parsons program consumed my remaining time and energy. The first semester was brutally difficult. My classmates seemed so sophisticated, so confident in their artistic voices, while I felt like an imposter from suburban Connecticut playing at being a designer. My professors were demanding, and often harshly critical, pushing us beyond our comfort zones. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, questioning every decision, every stroke of my pencil. The promised emails with Jack dwindled, as we both became consumed by our new lives. Our communication reduced to occasional likes on social media updates. But slowly, painfully, I began to find my footing. My unique perspective, born from years of being overlooked, gave me a different eye for design. I saw beauty in the forgotten, potential in the discarded. My work began to evolve, moving from technically proficient to genuinely innovative. By sophomore year, I had developed a signature style that incorporated traditional handcraft techniques with modern minimalist structures. My professors took notice, and one recommended me for a summer internship with Eliza Richmond, an up-and-coming designer known for her sustainable fashion line. Working with Eliza transformed my understanding of the industry. She became not just my boss but my mentor, showing me how to navigate the competitive world of New York fashion with integrity and vision. "Never design to please others," she told me one late night as we finalized pieces for her spring collection. "Design to express truth as you see it. The right people will respond." Under her guidance, I gained confidence, not just in my designs but in myself. I cut my hair into a sharp bob, developed my own style, and began to speak up in critique sessions. The soft-spoken girl from Westfield was gradually replaced by a young woman with opinions and the courage to voice them. When Eliza offered me a part-time position during my junior and senior years, I accepted gratefully. The steady income allowed me to move to a better apartment and focus more on my studies. I still checked social media, occasionally learning that Tyler and Amanda had continued dating through college, both at Stanford, their perfect couple narrative intact. Jack and I had fallen completely out of touch. His MIT photos showed him thriving, already developing apps and winning innovation competitions. Sometimes I would start to write him a message curious about his life, but always deleted it before sending. Our worlds had diverged so completely. What would we even talk about now? By graduation from Parsons, I had transformed fully into a new version of myself, confident, skilled, and ready to make my mark on the design world. As I accepted my diploma, I realized that the painful end to high school had been the beginning of something much more important, finding my true self away from Amanda's shadow and the limitations of others' expectations. 5 years after high school graduation found me working as a junior designer at Vertex, a respected design firm specializing in luxury brand experiences. My portfolio had grown impressive, with my work featured in several industry publications and a growing reputation for innovative material combinations and unexpected structural elements. My personal approach to design had evolved into something distinctly recognizable. I found ways to incorporate traditional craftsmanship into contemporary structures, creating pieces that felt both timeless and forward-thinking. This signature style began attracting attention beyond the usual design circles. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Actress Zara Ellis, known for her environmental activism as much as her award-winning performances, spotted my sustainable materials installation at a Manhattan gallery opening. 3 days later, her stylist contacted me about designing a statement piece for her upcoming film premiere. The dress I created for Zara merged recycled silk fibers with hand-dyed organic cotton in a structural silhouette that challenged conventional red carpet aesthetics. When she wore it to the premiere, the fashion press exploded with coverage. Overnight, my name went from industry whisper to headline. Commissions flooded in, and Vertex promoted me to lead designer for their sustainability initiative. My schedule became a blur of client meetings, material sourcing trips, and late nights at the studio. Success tasted sweeter than I had imagined, especially when Vogue featured a 3-page spread on my revolutionary approach to conscious luxury. I was reviewing fabric swatches for a new collection in the Vertex conference room when my assistant interrupted. "There is someone here to see you. He does not have an appointment, but he is quite insistent." Annoyed by the interruption, I looked up with a refusal ready on my lips, only to freeze in shock. Jack Sullivan stood in the doorway, looking simultaneously familiar and completely transformed. Gone was the serious teenager with the intense gaze. In his place stood a confident man, in an impeccably tailored suit, his dark hair styled in a way that suggested both professionalism and a disregard for convention. "Maxine Montgomery," he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "I saw your work in Vogue last month. I always knew you would change the design world." After the initial shock, we fell into conversation as if the years apart had been days. Jack explained that he had founded a tech startup focused on developing virtual reality applications for architectural and interior design. After a successful seed round, He had moved his headquarters to New York. "I have been following your career from afar," he admitted, as we continued our conversation over dinner at a small Italian restaurant near my office. "That installation you did for the Cooper Hewitt last year was incredible. The way you manipulated light through those textile layers." I blushed, surprised and touched that he had been keeping tabs on my work. "What about you? Last I heard you were revolutionizing something at MIT. Jack laughed, the sound warming something long dormant inside me. "I dropped out, actually. Had this idea I could not let go of, and MIT was too structured for what I wanted to build. My parents nearly disowned me, but the company is valued at $300 million now, so they have come around." The casual mention of his company's valuation nearly made me choke on my wine. I knew Jack came from money, but this was an entirely different level of success. As the evening progressed, I found myself sharing more than I had intended: my struggles during my early years at Parsons, my mentor relationship with Eliza, my ambitions to eventually launch my own design studio. Jack listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that showed he genuinely cared about understanding my journey. "What about personal life?" he finally asked, his tone carefully neutral. "Anyone special?" I shook my head. "Work has been my relationship. Design is a demanding lover." "I know the feeling," he agreed with a rueful smile. "Building a company does not leave much room for dating." As we parted that night, Jack hesitated before handing me his card. "I have an idea for a collaboration between our companies. My VR platform could showcase your designs in immersive environments. Would you be interested in discussing it?" That business meeting led to weekly working sessions, which evolved into dinners, museum visits, and weekend excursions. Jack was different from anyone I had dated since Tyler, more patient and thoughtful, challenging my ideas while respecting my expertise. Our professional collaboration flourished alongside our personal connection. Jack's VR platform allowed users to experience my textile designs in virtual spaces, creating an innovative way to visualize custom installations before production. The partnership garnered attention from tech and design publications alike, further elevating both our profiles. 6 months after reconnecting, Jack invited me to Paris for the weekend, ostensibly to meet with potential European investors. We stayed in a charming boutique hotel in Saint-Germain, wandered through art galleries, and spent hours in animated conversation over wine and exquisite food. On our final evening, as we walked along the Seine, with the lights of the city sparkling around us, Jack stopped suddenly. "I have a confession to make," he said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "There are no investor meetings tomorrow. I brought you to Paris because I wanted to give you this weekend to create a perfect memory together in the most beautiful city in the world." The realization that he had orchestrated this entire trip simply to make me happy left me speechless. No one had ever put so much thought into my happiness before. That night under the Paris stars, our relationship shifted from friendship to something deeper, more profound. Jack kissed me for the first time on the Pont des Arts, and it felt like every moment of my life had been leading to this one. The following months were a whirlwind of transcontinental romance. Jack's business took him to Tokyo, and I accompanied him, finding inspiration in Japanese textile techniques. I had a design showing in Milan, and he surprised me by flying in for the opening night. We built a relationship that was equal parts passion and mutual respect, each of us thriving in our respective fields while supporting the other's vision. A year after our reconnection, Jack took me to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, to the exact spot where we had first discussed my future at Parsons all those years ago. As we stood before a stunning Monet, he turned to me. "Maxine, meeting you again after all those years apart showed me that some connections are meant to endure even through time and distance. You inspire me daily with your creativity, your resilience, and your genuine heart." Then, to my complete shock, he knelt on one knee in the middle of the gallery, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a ring unlike any I had ever seen, a stunning sapphire surrounded by a delicate constellation of diamonds in a setting that somehow managed to be both vintage and utterly modern. "I designed it myself," he said, answering my unspoken question. "With some help from your team, of course. They said it needed to be as unique as you are." Tears blurred my vision. as he continued. Maxine Montgomery, would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? The word yes left my lips before I could even process the moment fully. As Jack slipped the ring onto my finger, applause erupted around us from museum patrons who had witnessed the proposal. In that moment, surrounded by priceless art, and the man who valued me exactly as I was, I felt a sense of rightness of coming full circle from that broken girl at prom to a woman who had designed her own destiny. 10 years after the prom night that shattered my heart, Jack and I made the decision to attend my high school reunion. Initially, I had dismissed the invitation when it arrived in my email, having no desire to revisit old wounds or parade my success like some vindictive trophy. But Jack saw it differently. "It is not about revenge, Max," he said, using the old nickname that now carried only warmth. "It is about closing a circle. Besides, I think it would be healthy for you to go back as the person you have become, not the person you were forced to be there." His insight, as usual, cut through my defenses. And so on a crisp autumn weekend we flew from New York to Connecticut on Jack's private jet, a necessity given his schedule rather than a frivolous luxury. I had spent hours considering what to wear, finally settling on a midnight blue jumpsuit of my own design, with architectural elements that conveyed confidence without trying too hard. My wedding ring and engagement band caught the light as we descended the steps from the jet to the waiting car at the small private airfield. Nervous Jack asked, squeezing my hand as we drove through the familiar streets of Westfield. "A little," I admitted. "It feels strange coming back, like visiting a movie set of someone else's life." The reunion was being held at the same Grand Westfield Hotel where prom had taken place a decade earlier, an irony not lost on me. As we entered the ballroom, now decorated with blue and silver balloons and Class of 2015 banners, I felt a flutter of anxiety in my stomach. Heads turned as we walked in. I had changed significantly, my once unruly hair now cut into a sophisticated bob, my fashion sense refined, and my posture radiating the confidence that comes from genuine achievement. But the most significant change was invisible. The inner certainty of my own worth, that no one could take from me again. "Oh my God, Maxine Montgomery, is that you?" The squeal came from Jessica Palmer, former cheerleader and prom committee chair. "We all follow your work. Your dress for Zara Ellis at the Oscars was absolutely stunning." Suddenly, I was surrounded by former classmates, people who had barely spoken to me in high school, now eager to claim connection to the successful designer I had become. Jack stood beside me, his hand supportively at the small of my back, fielding his own share of attention as people realized who he was. Jack Sullivan. The Jack Sullivan, founder of Reality Plus. The tech enthusiasts in the group practically vibrated with excitement. "Dude, your company's virtual workspace platform revolutionized remote collaboration during the pandemic." It was surreal, this reversal of social standing. But as we moved through the crowd, accepting drinks and answering questions about our careers and life in New York, I kept scanning the room for the two faces I both dreaded and needed to see. I spotted Tyler first, standing near the bar, looking remarkably similar to his high school self, though slightly heavier around the middle. Our eyes met across the room and he froze, recognition, and something like shame crossing his features. Before I could decide whether to acknowledge him, Jessica materialized at my side again. "Did you hear about Tyler and Amanda? They dated all through college, but it imploded spectacularly in senior year when he cheated on her with her roommate." "Karma, right?" Amanda was devastated. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Speaking of Amanda, she is over there by the photo display. She has been asking if you were coming." I followed her gesture and saw my sister for the first time in years. Amanda still possessed the beauty that had made her the golden girl of Westfield High, but there was a hardness to her features now, a tightness around her eyes that spoke of disappointment. Taking a deep breath, I excused myself from Jessica and made my way across the room, Jack beside me. Amanda saw us approaching and visibly steeled herself, plastering on a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Maxine, you came." She air-kissed my cheek, then turned to Jack with a far more genuine smile. "And Jack Sullivan. It has been ages. You look fantastic." I noticed how her gaze lingered on Jack, how she subtly positioned herself to display her figure to best advantage. Some habits died hard, apparently. Amanda, I acknowledged coolly. You look well. How have you been? Oh, busy. I have been working in marketing for a cosmetics company in Los Angeles. Nothing as glamorous as your fashion empire, of course. The admission seemed to pain her. I saw your spread in Vogue. Very impressive. Thank you. I kept my tone neutral, unwilling to give her the satisfaction of sensing any lingering hurt. Amanda turned her attention fully to Jack. I always knew you would do incredible things, Jack. That brilliant mind of yours was wasted in high school. I actually tried to break into the tech scene myself a few years ago. Had this idea for a fashion app, but the investors did not quite get my vision. She laughed lightly, touching his arm. Jack smoothly shifted position, placing his arm around my waist. Maxine and I have actually combined our expertise. Her design sensibility has been instrumental in making our VR experiences emotionally resonant. Amanda's smile tightened fractionally. How wonderful. You two certainly seem well matched. Her gaze dropped to my rings, the substantial diamonds impossible to miss. Congratulations on your marriage. When did that happen? Last spring, I replied. Small ceremony in the Japanese garden at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. Just close friends and family. How lovely. I am surprised Mom did not mention it. The subtle dig was pure Amanda, implying my own mother had not found my wedding worth discussing. She wanted to respect our privacy, I replied smoothly. We have been quite deliberate about keeping our personal lives out of the press. A slightly uncomfortable silence fell broken when Tyler approached clearly, having mustered his courage. Maxine, Jack? He nodded to each of us. It is good to see you both. Jack's grip on my waist tightened slightly, but his voice remained cordial. Tyler, how is life treating you? Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Not bad. Working for my dad's insurance company now. Married 2 years to Laura, she is around here somewhere. He gestured vaguely. Listen, Maxine. I have wanted to say this for years. I am truly sorry about what happened. It was immature and cruel, and you deserved better. The apology surprised me. Thank you, Tyler. That actually means something hearing you say that. Amanda looked distinctly uncomfortable at this exchange. Ancient history, right? We were all so young and stupid back then. Some of us learned from our mistakes, Jack commented mildly, though I could hear the steel beneath his pleasant tone. As the conversation continued, Amanda grew increasingly transparent in her attempts to impress Jack, mentioning mutual acquaintances from prestigious circles, dropping names of exclusive resorts and events. When she described a charity gala she had recently attended, claiming it was probably the social event of the season, I finally had enough. The Morrison Foundation Gala, I clarified. Jack and I were key sponsors this year. I designed the interactive installation for the main ballroom. Amanda's face fell momentarily before she recovered. Of course you were. Everything you touch turns to gold these days, does not it, Maxine? You must be so satisfied with how everything turned out. The bitterness in her tone was unmistakable, and suddenly I understood. Amanda, who had always been the star, the golden child, the one destined for greatness, was mediocre in the adult world. Meanwhile, I had flourished beyond anyone's expectations, including my own. It was not about satisfaction, Amanda, I said quietly. It was about finding my own path instead of constantly competing for approval. I stopped measuring my worth against others and started creating value on my own terms. Easy to say when you are married to a billionaire, she snapped, the facade finally cracking. Jack stiffened beside me, but I placed a calming hand on his arm. My career was established before Jack and I reconnected. And unlike some relationships, ours is built on mutual respect and genuine appreciation of each other's talents. The implied comparison to her relationship with Tyler hung in the air between us. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, surprising me. You have no idea what it has been like watching your meteoric rise while I struggled just to be noticed. Do you know how many design courses I took in college trying to follow in your footsteps? But I never had your talent. Never. Her confession stunned me into silence. Amanda had tried to copy me. It was always so easy for you, she continued, her voice low. You knew exactly who you were, what you wanted. I was just better at pretending to have it all together. And then you went to New York, and actually became somebody important while I. She trailed off, gesturing vaguely at herself. For the first time, I saw my sister clearly not as the perfect golden girl who had everything, but as someone who had never known who she truly was beneath the carefully constructed image. The realization drained away years of resentment, leaving only a quiet sadness for what might have been if we had supported rather than undermined each other. "It is not too late to find your own path, Amanda," I said gently. "But it has to be your path, not a reaction to someone else's." She looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me perhaps for the first time in our lives. "When did you get so wise, little sister?" "Somewhere between having my heart broken at prom and designing my first solo collection," I replied with a small smile. "Life has a way of teaching the lessons we need most." As we parted ways that evening, Amanda hugged me tentatively. "I am sorry, Maxine. For prom, for Tyler, for everything. I was jealous of you, even back then, though I would have died rather than admit it. You had something real, something authentic that I could never quite grasp." Her apology, so long overdue yet so unexpected, left me speechless. I simply nodded, understanding that some wounds were too complex to heal in a single conversation. But perhaps this was a beginning. As Jack and I drove away from the reunion, the weight of the past seemed lighter somehow. "You were magnificent in there," Jack said, kissing my hand. "How do you feel?" I considered the question carefully. "Free," I finally answered. Like I have finally put down a burden I did not even realize I was still carrying. That night, in our hotel suite, I looked at my reflection and saw not the shadow of Amanda, not the broken-hearted prom girl, but simply myself, Maxine Montgomery Sullivan, designer creator woman of substance. The journey from then to now had been painful, circuitous, and ultimately exactly as it needed to be. The days following the reunion brought an unexpected clarity, as if confronting my past had wiped clean a foggy window I had been looking through for years. Jack and I extended our stay in Connecticut, using the opportunity to properly visit with my parents. Sitting in their familiar kitchen, drinking coffee from the same mugs they had used throughout my childhood, I finally had the courage to discuss what had happened all those years ago. "I never told you the full story about prom night," I said, watching their expressions carefully, "about what Amanda did with Tyler." Mom looked down at her coffee, a flash of guilt crossing her features. "We suspected something happened between them. Amanda came home that summer from Stanford, full of stories about Tyler, and you were so withdrawn. But neither of you would talk about it." "We should have pushed harder," Dad added, surprising me with his insight. "We always let you girls handle your own relationship, but looking back, we missed a lot of warning signs about how Amanda treated you." Their acknowledgement of the dynamic between Amanda and me was healing in a way I had not anticipated. For so long I had believed they were blind to her manipulations when perhaps they had simply been unsure how to intervene. "I used to think you favored her," I admitted. "That no matter what I achieved, it would never measure up to Amanda's accomplishments." Mom reached across the table and took my hand. "Oh, Maxine, we were always so proud of you. Amanda was just louder about her achievements, while you kept your talents close to your heart. We should have made sure you knew how special your gifts were to us." Dad cleared his throat, clearly emotional. "Seeing what you have built, the woman you have become, it is extraordinary, and finding someone who appreciates you for exactly who you are." He nodded toward Jack, who had been quietly supportive throughout the conversation. "That is all we ever wanted for both our daughters." That evening, as Jack and I walked through my old neighborhood, the autumn leaves crunching beneath our feet, he asked me a question that gave me pause. "Do you think you can ever fully reconcile with Amanda? Truly move beyond the past?" I considered his question seriously. "I do not know if we will ever be close in the way some sisters are. Too much has happened, and our lives have taken such different paths. But I think there is room for a new kind of relationship, one built on who we are now rather than who we were then." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "Family is complicated, but from what I saw at the reunion, she might finally be ready to see you, as you are not as a competitor." His insight, as always, penetrated to the heart of the matter. The days following the reunion brought a tentative text from Amanda, asking if we might have lunch before I returned to New York. That lunch was awkward but honest. The first real conversation we had shared as adults. 6 months later, Jack and I began planning our wedding. Despite my initial hesitation, I invited Amanda, sending her a personal note, along with the formal invitation. New beginnings deserve witnesses. I would like you to be there for mine. To my surprise, she not only attended, but seemed genuinely happy for me bringing a thoughtfully chosen gift and making an effort with Jack's family. There was a moment during the reception as I danced with my new husband in the dappled light of the Japanese garden when I caught sight of Amanda watching us. Instead of the envy or resentment I might have expected, her expression held something that looked remarkably like pride. The years that followed brought professional triumphs beyond what I had imagined possible. My design firm, M. Montgomery, became known for its innovative use of sustainable materials and commitment to ethical production practices. We opened studios in New York, Paris, and Tokyo with Jack's technology integrated throughout our creative and production processes. But my greatest satisfaction came from the mentorship program we established for young artists from underprivileged backgrounds. Remembering how Mrs. Lawson had changed my life by recognizing and nurturing my talent, I wanted to create similar opportunities for those who might otherwise be overlooked. One afternoon, as I worked with a particularly gifted 17-year-old girl from the Bronx, I was struck by how her fierce determination reminded me of my younger self. My friends think I am crazy for spending my weekends designing. Instead of hanging out, she confessed carefully, stitching a complex pattern she had created. "And what do you think?" I asked. She looked up, her eyes bright with purpose. "I think they cannot see what I am building, but someday everyone will." Her certainty made me smile. Hold on to that vision. There will be people who try to dim your light or pull you off your path. The hardest lesson I learned was that success is not about proving others wrong, it is about proving yourself right. As I spoke those words, I realized how true they had become for me. The girl who once dreamed of triumphant revenge had evolved into a woman who understood that true victory lay in living authentically. Amanda and I never became best friends, but we developed a relationship based on mutual respect rather than competition. She eventually found her own path, opening a small but successful wellness retreat in Northern California, focusing on helping women recover from emotional trauma. When she sent me the business plan, asking for my honest feedback rather than my financial investment, I recognized it as a gesture of hard-won equality between us. Reflecting on the journey from that devastating prom night to the full and purposeful life I had created, I realized that without that painful catalyst, I might never have found the courage to leave Westfield to pursue my dreams with such determination to become the woman who could build something meaningful from her talents. The betrayal that once seemed like the end of my world had actually been the beginning of a far better story than I could have imagined for myself. In losing Tyler, I had found myself. And in finding myself, I had created space for the right partner to find me too. Jack and I built a life together that balanced ambition with purpose, success with meaning. His steady presence reminded me daily that being chosen by the right person for the right reasons was worth every tear shed along the way. The girl who once lost everything at prom found something far more valuable herself. And in finding myself, I discovered that the most beautiful design I had ever created was not on fabric or canvas, but in the authentic life I built with love, purpose, and the freedom to be exactly who I was meant to be. Has anyone else experienced betrayal that eventually led to something better in your life? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey from heartbreak to happiness resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Remember, sometimes, what feels like your worst moment can actually be the beginning of your best chapter. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, design your own life with intention, and the right people will value the authentic masterpiece you create.